Hello again everybody. Today we're going to take a look at how MSM, our integrated ITSM solution, can assist you with service configuration management. Service configuration management, as it's now known, in ITIL 4 as opposed to service asset configuration management at ITIL v3. So yeah, we're trying to use ITIL 4 terminology now as much as possible. So service configuration management. Let's think of a situation, so a scenario for this presentation. You've got an incident, something's happened, you've got an incident on a virtual cluster. You've received an event from your monitoring software to let you know that the virtual cluster has gone down. So the virtual cluster has gone down, it's not active, and the first question that management would typically ask the service desk or the technical team who are accountable for this cluster would be, what's the impact? What's the risk? You know, what impact does this have on our customers, on our users? And often the answer is a bit of an awkward, I don't really know. So I'm going to show you today how the MSM application can help. So let's say I'm on the service desk and we've received the alert to say that the cluster has gone down. What can we do? So first and foremost, show you something called the quick search within the application. So if I go to the very top left hand corner of my screen here, you'll see the magnifying glass, and quick search is available from anywhere within the main application. So if you ever get stuck or not sure where to go, you can use your quick search. So I'm going to use my quick search to try and find this cluster. So you're going to click on quick search and that'll give me a simple quick search bar in the middle of my screen. Again, available from any screen within the main application. So the quick search will search for people, configuration items, menus, different types of requests, incidents, so on and so forth. So you can find an awful lot using this quick search. So I'm trying to find the cluster. I have no idea what the cluster is called, so I need to hopefully search it by a keyword. So if I just type in the word cluster, it will start, the solution will drill down. Here we go. So I've got lots of different requests that have been logged against the cluster, so an incident and an incident there and a change. But there, under configuration items, so within our CMDB now, there's our virtual cluster. So if I scroll down to that, I can see there it is. It's called VC-MVL-001. So the chances of me remembering that name are slim, but I've just searched for the word cluster and there it is. So if I click on the cluster, that will open up this cluster within the CMDB. So we're now looking at the CMDB within the main application. So again, this fully integrated software. The CMDB is not an additional bolt-on or an additional module. There's none of that. This is provided from day one should you procure the solution. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have all of our existing configuration items within the CMDB. But here we're looking at our virtual cluster. So we have the basic information, so the category, description, the owner, the contact, and so on and so forth. Is it under finance, warranty, maintenance, and lots of other information related to the cluster. But what we're trying to do is work out the impact that the incident is going to have on our customers and potentially on our services as well. So to do that, I go to the top of my screen here and I click on my relationship analyzer. And yeah, as the name suggests, we can analyze the relationships between this configuration item and other things within the software. So those things could be services, other configuration items, people, departments, anything at all. So I'm going to just do this one level deep. Okay, look at the child relationships, run the test and create a diagram. And make this full screen so it's nice and clear for the viewer. So what I've now done is produced a diagram which shows me all of the relationships, and I'll just make this a little bit easier to see. This diagram shows me all of the relationships directly that the cluster has with other things. So there's the cluster in the middle of the screen there. If I zoom in, I can see that cluster interfaces with a service, the web hosting service. And that web hosting service depends on that cluster. So it's safe to say that if that cluster has gone down, we know that web hosting service has gone down as well. So what do we do then? Okay, we need to engage with the service owner. So if we hover above the web hosting service, we can see this little eye for information. And if I click on there to view summary, the solution will tell me lots of information, but the important thing is who's the owner. So in this case, Alex Hocking is the service owner. And if I scroll down a little bit here, I can see which customers use this service. So straight away we understand the impact from a service perspective of what this configuration item being down will cause, i.e. in this case the cluster. So we can see the service owner is Alex, so we should engage with him, and we know what customers are impacted by this. If I zoom out and zoom in elsewhere, I can see the virtual cluster also interfaces with the business support service, and the business support service depends on that cluster. So again, we want to understand the impact, click on the summary. I can see that Alex is the service owner for this as well, so that's helpful in this situation. And if I scroll down, we can see the following customers are affected by this outage. Over and above that, I can see other relationships as well. So the virtual cluster there is part of, or the VM Windows machine is part of that cluster. So that VM Windows machine itself, that might have services running off of that. In this case, it doesn't, but if it did, again, we now know we can draw on this relationship analyzer and view the topology of our services to see what impact is going to be. I can also see the virtual cluster is used by the development team there. So if I zoom in, I can see that we would probably need to engage with those guys because they use that cluster. I can see the owner there is myself, so I'm the owner because I created it. The contact is the infrastructure team, so they would need to be engaged in this incident as well. And we also see there's a critical link there with a Hitachi SAN as well, so there may be a consideration there. So if I zoom out, so this is a relatively simple diagram with not too many relationships. You could probably imagine and think about your own estate here. The number of relationships can be probably quite vast, and this diagram can get quite complex. So with our solution, we do have the ability to drill down 1 level, 2 level, 3 levels, etc. This is just 1 level deep, just to keep it clean and simple for the purposes of the demonstration today. So if I hover my cursor over the virtual cluster, you'll notice that a couple of items towards the bottom of the screen get greyed out. Essentially what's happening, anything that remains directly highlighted is directly impacted as a result of this cluster being down or unavailable or crashed or whatever the situation is with this cluster. So that's a fantastic way to understand the impact of any incident that might be taking place, not only from a technical perspective, but also the impact on your customers from a service perspective as well. And this relationship analyzer, as well as being a very handy tool for the service desk and the technical teams to use in the event of any incidents, it can also be used as part of change control as well for any risk and impact analysis of any changes. So another use case could be if this virtual cluster requires some sort of update and needs to be taken offline, what's the risk and what's the impact of doing that change? And we can have this screen as part of the change advisory board meeting, so everybody understands the risk and the impact of the change from a service perspective and the perspective of people, and other configuration items that may or may not be related to this particular configuration item here. Okay. So again, very simple, 2 or 3 mouse clicks to get to the information we need using quick search, so we can find this very quickly, very simply, find what we need, and yeah, it's presented nice and cleanly and visibly on the screen in front of you. You can save these as well, so if I go up here, at top left, I can see there's a little picture of a disk, so I can save this diagram. Some people like to have these printed off and stuck on their desk. I've seen that many times before. We have the option to do that. But the good thing about using the relationship analyzer is that it's up to date. If anybody makes any changes, your saved diagram may not be fully up to date, but the relationship analyzer will always be up to date based on the changes that have been made within the software. So that's it for today's presentation on service configuration management. Thank you very much.